First point out that generally
Okay, I guess we can start over. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty there. So before we get into our agenda tonight, we want to acknowledge that this is not a normal year. This is not a normal July board meeting. And we want to start off as a board. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank our district team led by Mr. Turner, but also a lot of other folks on the team alongside him. We want to thank our district office leadership staff, our principals, administrators throughout the district. We want to thank our teachers, classified staff. We've had students involved in the process. We've had parents involved in the process, community members, both from the business community as well as health professionals. There's been, I think there's no way to overstate, it just simply can't be overstated how much work has gone into the process so far, and that work will continue well beyond tonight. So I want to say thank you to the team. As a board, we really appreciate it. And from there, I would like to also, I think we'd be remiss if we don't welcome Mr. Turner as superintendent to his first board meeting as superintendent. As many of you know, Matt has been a part of our district for a number of years, a key leader in our district. But this is a new role, and it's a very difficult and challenging time. So again, on behalf of the board, I just want to say we look forward to working closely with you. We look forward to working with your team. You have a really strong team in place, a great foundation to build upon, but that doesn't mean it'll be easy. We know it's going to be difficult, and we're here to support you. And I also want to thank the district office staff for welcoming Matt to this new role so well over the last, I guess officially 16 days, but unofficially a couple of months, because he jumped right in after he was announced. So thanks to the leadership team here at district office, thanks to the principals and everyone across the district. We appreciate that, and we know that we're definitely better together, and we're seeing evidence of that here this summer. So I'll pause there if any board members want to comment.
Mr. Chair, yes, I'd like to say a few words. Turner, we were welcome. You decided to take the opportunity as well as the district. I think even in these trying times, no one's asked for a place to today. But we have decided to be all in this together and support the new district. Great opportunities with the place with you.
Those are difficult, unprecedented information people learning. So that's
there we go.
Okay.
So these are difficult times. Unprecedented times with information and opinions constantly bombarding us, but yet instead of being distracted, I see a unified Boone County team that focuses on the task at hand, the safety and education of all of our students and staff. I and our community appreciate the increased levels of communications, especially the recent video messages. Communication is key during these times. Voices of many of our stakeholders have been brought to the table as one team. Thank you for always answering our calls and questions, listening to our ideas, sometimes outside the box, and bringing a high level of collaboration to our district. It is this collaboration that is going to shape the future of our school district and lead us to deeper learning.
Mr. Chairperson, I'll echo what's been said so far. Mr. Turner, welcome to the district. I'm sure it's been the longest 16 days of your life thus far. I would like to welcome you, and I look forward to what we're going to do together. I look forward to the communication we've had thus far. I want to be here to support you, and I think together we're going to make the best that we can out of the situation that we currently have. So I look forward to what we're going to do.
Thank you.
I too would like to echo what my colleagues have said and welcome Mr. Turner to the first official meeting of the Boone County Board of Education. Hopefully, the first of November. As you mentioned, we are in unprecedented times, but there's no team I would really be fond with in this one. So many thanks to our building staff, our district staff, and you for the tireless commitment that you've given to the reopening, as well as all the other issues that the superintendent had to grapple with since you assumed the role. But I have utmost faith and confidence in our Boone County team, and know that the best is yet to come.
Okay, thank you. The last announcement for the evening will be, I do want to point out, we are tonight following the directives given to us for healthy at school. We are distanced here in the room quite well. When we move, we wear masks. When we're stationary and we are distanced, we can take our masks off. So we're modeling what we're going to ask students to do and staff to do if and when we return to the buildings. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. Okay, so I think that's it for opening announcements. So that brings us to item 3 on the agenda, recommended action consent agenda. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like to recommend for the board's approval the consent agenda items A through quadruple A as presented with an amendment to pull item CC from the agenda due to a contract issue. With the treasurer's report by Mrs. Linda Shield, I will be happy to answer any questions after the motion.
We began the month with a cash balance of $41,650,508. We had total revenues for the month of $8,260,287 and total expenditures for the month of $20,132,008. We have a net decrease in our cash balance of $11,871,721. That leaves us a cash balance at the end of the month and the end of the year of $29,778,787. Just a couple of highlights for the month and the year. Our cash balance is $3 million higher than the cash balance in June of last year. However, I would like to just say that last year we had a little bit of a timing difference that caused our cash balance to be a little lower, and that was in delayed payments of approximately $3 to $4 million of occupational license tax. So we did receive those in July. And we also processed $18.4 million in payroll this month. Of course, that's all what we refer to as the summer checks for the school year staff. And that included $418,000 in sick day buyout and vacation days to retirees. Our expenses were generally in line with budgeted amounts. Credit, of course, goes to all of our budget managers. They do a good job. In looking and reflecting on the year, I wanted to point out that our general fund salaries were $6 million higher than last year during the year. Also, not included in that is an additional $2 million in salaries that went for the Ignite School. Our transfers included $163,000 for the CATS grant in our third offer. And that, of course, is a match from the general fund. We also transferred $284,000 to the Ignite Fund. We did not have any debt service payments this month. However, next month we will be seeing $4.7 million transferred for debt service. I provided all the reports I typically provide to you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
The recommendation of motion to accept CC.
Say that I appreciate all the information. Appreciate that we are the meeting every opportunity.
I'll say as well, I really like the executive summaries that we got on all the LSS POs. I know that saves a great deal of time, so we don't have to read every page of every contract to answer a simple question. We have it if we need it. So I know Dr. Detweiler, probably the LSS team, probably put a lot of effort into that. So I really, really, really like that. So I don't know about you guys, but it was thumbs up for me.
Made it easier, that's for sure. Okay, anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need to backtrack real quickly, as my board colleagues know. It wouldn't be a board meeting if I don't mess up something procedural here. We are going to adjust the agenda tonight. I would like to make a recommendation to move our audience as citizens to earlier in the meeting. We know some people want to speak into some of our new business items, and as we reflected on that, we didn't think it was right to have audience as citizens after we discuss those items. So I'd like to make a motion to pull audience as citizens forward. I guess it would become item 5 right before recommended actions, new business. That motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So we'll pull audience as citizens for those who signed up to speak right before new business. Okay, that brings us to item 4, recommended action, old business. Item A, annual board policy update, second reading. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like to recommend for the board's approval, the annual board policy update, second reading as presented, and I will answer any questions after the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. I'm sorry, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Well, it's the second time we've seen it, but did anything come up? Doesn't look like it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. Okay, that brings us now to item 5 on the revised agenda, which is our audience of citizens. Do we have the list of folks? Okay, I think we had 1 or 2, I think. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we just have 1 gentleman. I do want to just read a quick statement on our audience of citizen guidelines, and then we'll let Mr. Crosby step up. So the audience of citizens is a time for the board to receive information. It's not a time to discuss, answer questions, or to debate a matter or core issues presented. We cannot legally, nor would we want to discuss an issue of a specific employee or a student to respect privacy. We welcome your comments. If you have a concern that you would like a response from the board or the administration of the district, please give your name and address before you speak so that we can contact you after the meeting. If you wish to make a statement only and no response, you may do so without giving your name if you desire. In order to make sure everyone, well, we only have 1 person, so I think we're good. I think that's it. Mr. Crosby.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Turner. Welcome. I'm sure that you didn't ever foresee this coming, but I think change is good. I've been involved in the Boone County School. My kids have been going. I've been here since 2003. I've got a senior in high school, going to be a senior in high school and a junior in high school. I've got a special needs child at Connor Middle School. That's one of my concerns here tonight is when you ask a special needs child to wear a mask. I sat over there and I'm a 51-year-old man. I've touched this mask probably 4 or 5 times. Okay? How do you expect a special needs child to sit in a classroom for 7 hours a day and not touch their mask? Okay? My next question, I've got kids in high school. I feel sorry for the SRO people that are standing guard at the door. When they have masked people walking into the high school, how are they supposed to identify the students? I think these policies with these masks raise some questions that need to be answered. I know you all have gotten guidance from the KBE. But my question is, we have a very valuable resource across the river called Children's Hospital. Have you all conferred with them, because they have an infectious disease department, have you all conferred with them for your all's guidance? Because I will tell you this, as a constituent, I don't trust government. I deal with COVID numbers all day long. So that would be my statement is, are you all getting guidance from obviously the science? Because the science says, Pediatrics Association has said, we are doing more harm keeping our kids out of school than we are putting them back into school. I get it. Teachers are worried, there's fear. But in my world, fear is false expectations of the real. Right? That's where I stand. And I hope for my sake, for my children, especially my special needs child, who went through a virtual thing, and I will tell you this, and I will be very blunt. It was a cluster. I'm not a teacher. Okay? I am definitely not a special needs teacher. So I feel that my daughter has gotten shortchanged. Because she did not, if I really read back to the IEP that was mandated for her, I could probably come to the school board and say, this wasn't followed. So I'll leave that and leave my comments to you all. And hopefully, I very rarely ever come to these things, but I just want you to know, as a parent of a special needs child, but also a concerned parent of students who are going to high school, where people's identities are going to be covered up. How do you plan on keeping and ensuring the safety of our kids? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Does anyone else want to speak that didn't sign up? Okay.
Hi, my name is Dr. Tiffany Schusler. I'm also a North Point parent. I have a 4th grader and a daughter that's starting 1st grade this fall. I am a business owner in here and I'm a general dentist. I own my own practice. And my concern is, I just want to express my concern about the hybrid model or an all online learning model. As a business owner, it's very difficult for me with either of those models to manage education for my kids. I don't have the ability to provide their education and work clinically with my patients and supervise school at the same time. And I also don't have the flexibility with my business to move things around because I have employees that rely on me for their jobs. And I'm in a position, I talk to a lot of other business owners locally in different industries, and they're all kind of in the same boat. So we just have some concerns about, I understand just like Jim does that teachers may be afraid to come back, some parents may be afraid to send their kids back. But I think that with the proper precautions that we may be able to do it safely, hopefully. I deal with cleaning and disinfecting every single day. I can do it in my sleep. And I have a lot of really wonderful ideas that I've even offered to share with our teachers and our principal, Mrs. Smith at North Point, that are super easy. They may be a little bit expensive on the front end, but they're super duper effective and a lot easier than trying to run down 10,000 cans of Clorox wipes for the school district over the course of the year. I know it's going to become a problem because I know for a fact that the canisters that they make them in are becoming in short supply. And so we're going to run out again. So I just wanted to express my concern on behalf of myself and other parents that I know that the blended model and even the full online model might be very difficult from a childcare standpoint. And we sort of feel like we're having to choose between educating our kids and making our living. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for letting me speak. We really do appreciate all you do for the board, for the school board and the schools. And I love our schools, I really do. I love North Point. But NTI was critical. The only way it worked for my family is that my business was closed. So we were mandatory shutdown. So that's the only reason why it even worked for us. My 3rd grader, my kindergartner was just like Jim's daughter. It was a disaster. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
I have a 2nd grader and preschooler, and one's autistic, and the other one's in preschool, and he's not going to do anything in school. If he's in home, he's just going to run around all day watching TV and playing with toys. So the NTI was a complete disaster for my autistic child because any person knows when a kid goes to school, they act completely different than when they're at home. And his whole entire IEP is nothing but social skills and being socially appropriate with other kids. And during NTI and even in hybrid, his IEP is not going to happen. Might as well just throw it out the window.
Thank you. Is it okay she didn't come up? Do we need to summarize?
Just to be heard, it'd be better. Ma'am, just for the record, your name.
Amber.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you for your input. That brings us to item 6, recommended action, new business. Item A, new job description, high school dive coach, Mr. Turner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like to recommend for the board's approval. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like to recommend for the board's approval, the new job description, high school dive coach as presented, and I will answer any questions after the motion.
Okay, we have a recommendation. On the motion, please. Second. Thank you. Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on this item? Looks like it's a kind of a district level coach. Any questions? Doesn't look like it. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion will carry. Brings us to item B, emergency declaration related to employee assistance program, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I would like to recommend for the board's approval of the emergency declaration related to the employee assistance program. I will read in the attached memorandum at this time. In the emergency declaration related to the employee assistance program. Currently, Boone County Schools has minimal resources to support our teachers and staff in the areas of mental health. We promote self-care and encourage healthy work-life balance. Our insurance provides a 24-hour, 7-day hotline for employees and short-term and long-term medical leave, to name a few strategies. Student Services and Human Resources, through a collaborative process, have determined that having a work environment that promotes positive mental health is essential for employee well-being. According to the Harvard Business Review, employers lose $17 to $44 billion each year due to clinical depression. On the other hand, employees are happy when mental illnesses are acknowledged in a positive manner. A happy employee is 12% more productive than unhappy employees. Through our research, employee assistance program is one of the greatest missing benefits of our employees. I've attached an executive summary explaining the request for your review. I recommend the board declare that an emergency exists, which precludes our ability to contract for an emergency and employee assistance program, allowing us to contract in an agency for 1 year while completing the non-competitive bid process as presented.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation on a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on this item? It's a great idea. So thanks for bringing it forth. That was supported. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, brings us to item C, reopening of schools, or reopening of school options for 2020. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'd like to recommend for the board's approval of the reopening of the options plan for 2020. I will read in the attached memorandum at this time. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented our community with many complex challenges, including how we will safely educate our 21,000 students. The priority of safely and effectively educating our students must be balanced with the safety of our 3,600 employees and also the financial impact of the pandemic on jobs and our families. After gathering initial feedback from our stakeholders, our school and district administrators have worked diligently and with great care to develop a reopening plan for the Boone County schools. Our goal of providing a quality education for all students has not changed. However, we must accomplish this task with the safety of our students and staff at the forefront of our plans. The guidance on safety expectations and best practices for Kentucky schools, developed by the Kentucky Departments of Public Health and Education, and consistent with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and other federal and state guidance, provides guidelines for reopening our schools for in-person instruction in August of 2020, while minimizing and containing the spread of COVID-19. Providing in-person instructional services to our students will require all students, faculty, and staff to practice social distancing, wear a face mask or face covering or a mask, conduct daily temperature checks, and assist with contact tracing if necessary. Additionally, we should all expect that returning to campus will require a shared commitment to daily hygiene practices, including frequent hand washing and symptom checking. Trying to balance the health of students, families, and staff, along with the need to return to the school for academic, social, and emotional development of our children is challenging. We recognize that each family must make decisions based on what is best for their own family. While we cannot eliminate risks altogether, we believe that by following the state and federal guidance listed above, we can together significantly reduce the risk of potentially spreading COVID-19 on our campuses. Doing so, however, will require a shared commitment by each of us to take care of ourselves, take care of our families, and take care of everyone in our schools. The reopening proposal for consideration is this. Parents and students will have a choice of two different options. Option one being an in-person instruction option. Students choosing in-person instruction will return to the building with appropriate health and safety measures for the current state of the pandemic. The schedule could include a full return to the building on a regular schedule, returning to the building on a hybrid or a blended schedule that consists of in-person instruction and remote online instruction. Examples of a hybrid schedule could include an alternating day schedule or an alternating week type of in-person schedule. Another option could be full remote learning until in-person classes can resume. That is option one. Option two is virtual instruction. Students choosing virtual instruction will not return to the building and will complete an approved curriculum remotely over the span of at least one semester with the support of a certified teacher and a required schedule of contacts with teachers. Upon approval from the Board of Education, the district will be sending detailed information to parents and guardians on both of these options. Once the parents and guardians review the two options, the district will ask for a confirmation of your choice so the logistics of these choices can be completed. The district understands the anxiety and the complications caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the closure of in-person instruction in March. We ask for your patience as we maneuver through this challenging process. Our aim is to provide a safe learning environment with the in-person instruction option while offering the opportunity for a different approach with the virtual instruction option. I recommend the board approve the 2020 reentry plan for the Boone County School District as presented, and I will answer any questions after the motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation, motion please. Motion by Dr. Brown, second by Ms. Bird. Okay, any discussion or questions?
If I may, I'd like to walk through a couple of slides to give some more context to the memo that I just read. What you see on your screens is a green, yellow, and red model for the status of the school system, if you will. And if you'll look on the left and the right sides of that colored block, option one is listed on the left for in-person instruction. Option two is listed on the right for virtual instruction. So going through red, yellow, and green, kind of indicating a status of our school system, if you will. Green meaning that we don't have alerts. They may have subsided in regards to COVID-19. Safety guidelines may have been reduced or eliminated. Essentially, we could return to full in-person instruction. Such a situation exists. In yellow, it would be in-person and remote learning, meaning that there are some COVID-19 safety alerts that are in effect. We have guidelines that are in place from the state or the federal government as well. Our schools may potentially have to use a hybrid schedule to safely reduce the number of students in a school at a given time due to social distancing requirements, which essentially reduces the space within the school by 50%. And lastly, a virtual instruction option in red. That red would indicate that there are significant safety issues, safety alerts within our community, within our state, and there may be state mandates, and our district may have to implement a full instructional model for all students. School buildings would be closed in that situation. So the red, yellow, and green would indicate a movement potentially of our district that may have to occur during the COVID-19 pandemic throughout the course of the year. We have to be prepared as a school system to move between these states, if you will. So if you look at option 2 on the right-hand side, it would be the same all year long. So if a family chose to do virtual instruction, it would certainly last for the first semester and potentially the second semester if they so choose to do that. And so also one thing with option 2, we have had some questions from some of our families about going on homeschool. We have recommended that they could be part of our virtual program if that's what they're thinking and they feel that's what's right for them. So we are communicating that option as well. So this gives us a visual way to kind of see that the state of our school district can move depending on the conditions of the pandemic, the health conditions here within our community. So on the slide that you're seeing right now with the star on it, it says 7/16 for July 16th here today. Essentially we are in the yellow area. We have significant guidelines that we have to follow, significant health strategies that we have to put in place to safely educate our students within our schools. And we may have to do some things to reduce the number of students within our schools, depending on that situation. So if you would go to the next slide there, please. Yeah, just go to the last one, if you would, please. So this is another visual, same format there with option 1 and option 2 at the top. Option 1 is in-person instruction, and these models are set up right now. There is a generality to it because one thing that's been very, very difficult with this process is that we have to have enough information to be able to plan effectively for the number of students that we have that will be attending our buildings. We have had through this process about 11,000 parents and families have filled out our survey, representing about 18,000 of our students, a significant number. And a certain percentage of those parents said they would like to do the virtual option. That was back in early June when that was completed. Some of those decisions may have changed, but we started planning with that percentage in mind. And we know that parents may be making a different decision as we're coming forward. That's why we're trying to plan as best as we could to get the structure in place so that then we could then ask parents what they would want to do. And then we have to plan earnestly for that. And the planning for that process is very significant on the back end for our schools, for our principals, for their leadership teams, for their teachers, and for our district staff as well. So just giving some context to that, on the left there showing that in-person instructional model, just a few of the details about the status again, just stating it in a different ways. I think it's important that people understand that we may have to move one way or another. If we could work to become green and go back to full in-person schedule, we have some work to do within our community in terms of making sure we're on the same page and keeping each other safe. And obviously we don't want to go to a red status unless we're absolutely, it's necessary to do that. On the right-hand side on the virtual instructional model, just a few details that will be staffed by our certified teachers. It will be fully virtual at home. There will be a specific curriculum that's put together by our teachers at those levels. We'll have different teachers designing instruction. We'll have different teachers delivering that instruction through that process. There'll be a requirement of time that students will need to work on that on a regular basis, and that will be supported by our teaching staff. So there'll be a required number of contacts with teachers, follow-up, feedback with our teachers in that process to try to make that as effective as we can. But again, those are just a few of the general details. And that concludes my presentation there. Thank you.
Thank you for that detail. Any other questions or discussion on this?
Mr. McIntyre, I just wanted to mention, I know I've received a number of communications from teachers, parents, staff. You know, I know this is something, I think we all feel pretty much the same way. We're between a rock and a hard place. None of us asked to be here. None of us wants to be here. I have 4 children myself and I teach. So I've seen this from the perspective of college students who transitioned to online learning really well, and college students who essentially disappeared into a black abyss when I went online, because that's what we did. I've seen it both ways. I've seen my own children want to go back to school. Now they're young, they want to go back to normal school. I think we all know right now that's just not an option that we have. I think we've all talked to our friends, our families, our teachers. I can tell you, our staff, I don't even know how many hours you guys have put into this. Our district leadership is trying to imagine every single potential caveat that could occur. We just cannot predict what will happen tomorrow. We can't predict what will happen in a week, but we can plan the best that we can. And I think what we've heard loud and clear from our community and our students is that we need options for our families. So I'm hopeful that with what we've come up with, our families can feel comfortable that they can choose what's right for their family as they stand right now. I think we'll do our best to look at CDC guidelines, to look at, I hear what you say, you don't trust the numbers. And I you know, I know, I hear what you said. I know, I hear what you said.
Doing COVID tests for every child before they come in. That should tell you something.
But I will tell you,
Our
when
research, the last number I
children's
saw, we have 500 publications per day
for
right now.
every
Some
child
peer-reviewed,
before
some
they
not,
come in
some
for an optional
process,
surgery. So
some
that should
good,
tell
some
you
bad,
something.
some we're not sure.
And we could all read the research. I know the last number I saw where there are 500 publications per day coming out right now. Some peer-reviewed, some not, some in the process, some good, some bad, some we're not sure yet. So I will guarantee you that we're doing the best we can with what we know right now.
As far as I can.
And I like that Mr. Turner put that little star with today's date. Tomorrow, this could all look different. And I think we're all gonna hang on. And we're gonna do what's best for kids the best we can every single day. And I know that's all we can. And I know, as far as I can tell, that's exactly what we're gonna do. So I hope our families continue to reach out. I hope our teachers reach out.
I hope all of our parents.
And I know working with our principals in our schools, they love these kids. They're doing appreciate the work that's gone into this. And I think we're gonna have a rough ride in front of us. I hope all of our parents and teachers and staff will do the best we can every day. So that's all I have.
I'll just say ditto. Thank you,
Dr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add a little bit more about what I'm sharing there. Obviously, I believe our community understands that these are tough decisions that are going to be ahead of us. The beautiful thing about public education, parents, you have a choice. Do think about this, though, is that we have a lot of strong and special teachers and classified and unclassified employees that we have to think about them too, because they're the ones taking care of these children. You think about the percentage and the times that they spend with these children year after year. It's a larger percentage if you add it over 12, 13 years. So I do ask that during these decisions that all of you make as families, be thinking and praying for these teachers and classified and unclassified employees as well, because they're just as important in this whole mix of what we're doing. You've heard everybody say it, we never plan this. We don't want this. There's going to be decisions made. Just keep in mind, even though these choices are there and they're present, they may not be the best choice for everybody, but at least you have options. And try to look at this through a different lens. Mr. Chair.
I would just like to echo what everyone else has said more eloquently probably than I could. So, but I do also, as Dr. Brown did, want to thank everyone who's reached out with their insights. It is helpful to judge the community. And generally where we find ourselves is we get about 50-50. And so we're left sitting in the middle, but that's what we're here for. That's our job, is to make these decisions. It's what we signed up for. And we don't shy away from that responsibility at all. And I don't trust the numbers either, especially when you see some of the localities of how they generate their numbers. Everything now has become a COVID case. So, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I trust these people around me implicitly and know that whatever decision we make will not make everyone happy, but I can promise you it will be made with the best interests of our children and our staff in mind to keep education moving. And I think one point that maybe hasn't been clarified, when we talk about virtual, I've heard comments about NTI. This will not be NTI. When we start reopening the school, if you are on a virtual instruction program based upon the conversations we've had, it's not going to be the emergency situation that NTI was. This will be more structured. It's going to count. Grades will matter. Students are going to have to show up and do the work and be accountable because it's the platform on which we're going to reopen under virtual learning, if I'm correct. Is that correct, Mr. Term? Okay. So that hasn't been said yet, and I think it needs to be said for those, because I understand, concern. I think at some point we have to get past fear and step out in faith and just keep moving. But I don't mind wearing this. When I'm out in public, I wear it. I am in an at-risk category. I accept that for myself, and it's up to me to take care of myself. So I do, and in doing so, hoping that I'm helping take care of somebody else. And I don't mind doing that at all, but I think that's my responsibility. But I also understand that some of our children need to be back in school because that's their safe zone. That's where they receive services that they would not receive otherwise. And we have to have that available for them and as safely for them and the teachers as possible. And thinking about that, I just want to give a shout out to our heroes and our cafeteria staffs and our transportation staffs who prepared thousands and thousands and thousands of meals each week when we went into emergency NTI, and not only made them, but took them out into the communities that needed the help the most. So for our custodial staffs that have cleaned within an inch of their lives every nook and cranny of every building in this district, they're heroes that people don't think about, or they don't get the credit that they should. But I too appreciate the thought and care that has gone into coming up with options, because we don't want to say it's this way or the highway. Because everyone's has different family circumstances, and some people online works well, they're home, they have the ability, they have the time, and their children adapt to it. And if that's what they feel comfortable with, then you've got that option and you can handle that. But for the others who need their children in school, the children need to be in school. Hopefully the pandemic will calm down and the numbers will get more real, and we can provide that for them as well. Because the kids out there that don't have the backup and the support, they're the ones that I'm concerned about too.
I would like to echo what Ms. Bird said as far as we do have children that need to be in school. I would also like to thank all the principals. I know that they are rising to the challenge. They have assured us that whatever we need to do to move forward, they will do. They are so committed to our children that they are going to make this happen for what's best for the kids. So I appreciate all the district staff and Mr. Turner. I know when we see these plans come out, they run by us. We are drilling them with questions. We are asking the questions. We are coming across the different scenarios. How are we going to handle that? And they have dug in and given us the answers that we need to feel confident in the decisions that we make.
Okay, thank you, everyone. A couple of items that I just want to maybe dig into a little bit. So I guess the situation with in-person, fully in school versus hybrid, it's really a numbers game, right? It's kind of a supply and demand. If we have huge demand, people that want to be in the building, constrained in space now. So that's what would essentially put us in a hybrid situation. That's an accurate statement, right?
Yes, in a very general way, that's correct. With social distancing requirements, one of the biggest logistical issues that we have to work through, to be quite honest, is lunch. With social distancing and masking being together, the most well-recommended strategy to prevent spread, that's fine in classrooms. If we can all agree and we work with our families and our students to wear masks during school, we could have our classrooms at the capacity they were previously. And that's not optimal, but that could be possible. But what happens is with lunch is you obviously have to take your mask off to eat lunch. And so we have to have social distancing. And again, we found that to be an effective 50% reduction in the number of students that we could feed at one time. So if you have to reduce the number of students feeding in one particular period, you're then going to need to double the number of lunch periods that you have. So that creates a logistical challenge that with all of our schools, some are able to handle that a little easier than others. But that may dictate a little bit about some of the numbers that we have in the school. So if we have a hybrid type of schedule, we may be able to set up a schedule where we have fewer numbers of students in the school because of the schedule. That would mean being unique. And one thing that we've really worked hard to try to keep as a priority, we heard it from our parents in the survey, is that there are childcare concerns if we have multiple kids and families. And would they be on the same schedule or a different schedule? And so we've looked very closely and are working very hard. If that's the route we have to go, we will work as hard as we can to make that work. However, it would not be perfect in terms of having school every day for some kids. We may have to blend that together where there's a in-person component to learning and a virtual component to learning at that point.
Yeah, so that helps a lot, just to understand. I mean, that's one item. And just to back up, the lunch issue is it's a state law that, you know, we can't just say, well, we only get 15 minutes to eat. You know, you have to give them the full amount of time to eat. So that's one issue at a little bit of depth of dozens, hundreds that you all go through. So that's helpful to understand that. So we heard from a couple of folks in the audience about special needs. I know we've talked a little bit about maybe offering services daily to those populations. What's, I guess, a quick update on that?
Sure, and that is our obligation to make sure that we provide services for our students with special plans, IEPs or 504 plans. So if we do have a hybrid option that we may move into, what we would have to do is really look hard at having those students come in multiple days, maybe more days than other students, to make sure that we provide the services those students need. So that's been a long conversation with our principals, with our special education staff at the district level as well. So that's something that we're working very hard on, making sure that we provide a free and appropriate public education for all those students.
Okay, thank you for that. My last question will be just a little bit on the communication plan going forward. We can address that later, or do you want to? I'm just thinking a little bit of a snapshot for the audience and the folks watching on what they can expect to get next.
Sure. We will be releasing some information, by first thing tomorrow. Details that we'll put on our website. We're sending out a message to all of our families that have email addresses for. That will have information about making a choice, and we're working on setting up a week timeline to do that, to have time to process, to research, to look at things, to ask questions. So we would welcome questions from our families, from our parents, from students about how this may work, because there's lots of different pieces to it. I also anticipate that we'll be sending out regular messages. We'll be recording some videos that we'll be doing some explanations about how certain parts of the school day will work, or certain parts of the school processes. So we will be working on those, and some of those will be based on what we hear from parents, because part of our survey we're sending out is what information do you need to hear from us to help you make your decision that we've not already put out.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion will carry. That brings us to item D, amended 2020-2021 school calendar. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'd like to recommend the amended 2020-2021 school calendar with the amendment start date for students Tuesday, August 25th, as presented. I will answer any questions after the motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation of the motion, please.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any questions on the proposed calendar change or comments?
Matt, I'll just make a comment really quickly. I'm on the calendar committee, and I know after the first meeting, I sent you guys notes about what had occurred, and I did want to give you an update that there was a great deal of feedback with regards to Mrs. Schill did a historical update about how we had to proceed with this, Mr. Ford, Dr. Detweiler. So we had parents on the committee, we had principals on the committee, we had a lot of our district representative staff on the committee. So I think we'll all admit when we came out of that committee meeting, this is not perfect for any of those groups, but it's a nice compromise from all of the groups. And I think this will give our teachers and our staff an opportunity to come in, get what we need to ready, figure out how we're going to go about this together as a group, and then we can go forward from there. So I think this gives them the time to do what they need to do to be most successful going forward. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. That brings us to item 7, the superintendent's report. There is no report tonight. We'll let you off the hook tonight, okay? Since he just took us through the guts of the plan. Okay, so that brings us to item 8, information proposals, communications. Does anybody have anything they want to share with the board or amongst the board? I know we're all quite busy, so we've covered a lot. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but did have an opportunity last night to participate in the parent camp. Those of you who aren't aware of that, it was my first time. They do an awesome job running it. It's an opportunity to kind of jump in on multiple topics and Zoom type meeting for people all over the country. And our new Commissioner of Education presented last night. He ran one of the sessions on deep learning. His name is Dr. Jason Glass. He's I guess a Kentuckian by birth, and moving back to become our Commissioner of Education. Quite impressive, really. Very passionate, specifically about just deep learning. The things I kind of took from him last night is it's going to be vital that we build a system of education that allows students to work on really important skills that they're going to need in a daily and weekly, monthly basis when they get out of school, and not just kind of learning facts and consuming a bunch of information. He talked a little bit about not just focusing on best practice and what's already out there, but what's our next practice, what's our next best practice, and how do we reimagine education? And just continually asking ourselves, what should school look like? I think with the pandemic and all industries are going to be transforming to some level. Education has to be right there in the mix. So it was a neat opportunity for us to hear from him. So thanks to Julie Pyle. I guess I should give Julie some props. She helps run parent camp at a national basis, national level. So I think she did the legwork to get him signed up a few weeks ago, even before he was announced as our commissioner. So I'll take the opportunity too. I think Julie might speak into this in a minute. We've got, I'm sure, a lot of people watching this tonight on YouTube that don't usually participate. And we would like to encourage you to get involved. Get involved in your school. That's the other thing I learned last night. One of the participants talked about, involvement is showing up at a bake sale, showing up at the back to school night, basically showing up when almost everybody else is there. That's involvement, but engagement is being there continually. If you can get there during the day, that's great. Not everybody can do that, but it's just staying engaged, truly on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, an ongoing basis. At some level, it's going to be different for everybody, but we would love to. We need more people in our schools, and we know you have a lot to offer. So please plug into your school. Anything else?
I was just going to mention that the Boone County Business Association golf outing is on, in case you haven't seen that communication from Mrs. Brady. The Business Association outing benefits our schools in two ways. Half of the proceeds raised from the charity outing come directly into Boone County schools. The half that the Business Association keeps also goes directly into our schools through winter coats and a holiday event at Potter's Ranch, where they have a big meal for them and gift bags and treats and things like that. And it's an amazing night to be out there and see a child who gets a brand new coat and wants to know, is it really, really for them? So it makes you wonder what they've done in the past for that winter coat, which isn't even on most of our radars. Our kids need a new winter coat every year. We go get them one. These kids want to know who else they have to share it with. So all the proceeds do end up back in our schools. It's a little bit different this year with the virus. Hoping to get everyone as prepaid as possible. And when you show up, have on your mask, and we'll have to do that for the golf course, as well as social distance as much as possible until the golfers get to their first hole where they do their shotgun starts. So it's not too late to sign up, and everything will be done following guidelines and regulations, but it is a great way to be outside and support the business association, as well as there's a lot of kids that benefit from this every year.
Thank you. If you can't play, there's sponsorships available, right? Are they doing that this year? Whole sponsors? Whole sponsors?
Yes, you can be a whole sponsor, you can be an exclusive whole sponsor. That's, I would say probably would need to get it in by the next golf outing committee meeting, which is Tuesday, so that the signs could be made, because you do get publicity for that, being a whole sponsor.
Anything else?
I would just like to say a few words. I'd like to thank Ms. Bird, Mr. Turner, Mr. McIntyre for coming to the virtual parent camp last night. It was quite an honor to have our new commissioner on. It just was a coincidence that we were able to get him on I had contacted him a couple of months ago based on an article they had written on deeper learning. I would just like to mention something about when we went into the NTI situation last year in the fall, the teachers and the families had a good 7 months of building relationships. We're going into a new school year where it's going to be very difficult. We're not going to have the normal back to school opportunities to build those relationships. There's potential of us doing the remote learning, those type of things. So we have to think outside the box. We have got to get families and schools integrated together, because if we do have to go fully back to that model, we're all going to need each other. And so I just very much encourage everyone, reach a hand out to your teachers, to your schools, the teachers in schools, reach a hand out to your families, to your parents. I know as a parent, when we went into NTI, even though I work virtually all the time, I felt disconnected. And so it's just very important that we all build those relationships. It's going to take extra effort, especially in the time that we're in right now.
I'd like to comment on the new commissioner as well. It was nice to have him in the session. It is very nice to have our new commissioner be a practicing superintendent at a very large school district in Colorado. So he understands how things work. He understands the dilemmas, the troubles, the difficulties, especially in running a large district. So his knowledge base, his academic credentials, his experiences are top notch. So I'm really excited about his potential and his leadership here in our state. I think he will be able to help us do even greater things. I do want to also thank our current interim commissioner, Brown. He has done a fantastic job filling in all this time during the COVID-19 pandemic. And he is very glad they've hired a new commissioner and he can move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Brings us to item 9, closed executive session. We do not have a closed session tonight, so we're on to item 10, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Okay, where's the? Very good. Okay, I want to call to order the Finance Corporation of Boone County Board of Education, July 16th, 2020. That brings us to item 2, audience of citizens. Anybody want to speak at the Finance Committee meeting? Seeing none there. Item 3, approval of minutes and financial statements for A and B. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to recommend the board to approve the minutes for June 11th, 2020 corporation meeting and the financial statements.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation. To have a motion. Dr. Brown, second. Ms. Byrd, any questions, discussion? We covered it earlier. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Brings us to item 4, adjournment of the meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? So, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.